Welcome to Barcelona for the final round of the 2016 Blancpain GT Series. Many titles to be sorted, both overall and in the Sprint Cup. But let's first look back to the action last time out at the Hungaroring, round 4 of the Sprint Cup, and so difficult to overtake down into the first corner. Tristan Vautier leading the way in the ACA ASP Mercedes, but he ran wide. Two of the WRT Audis dived up the inside through turn 2, really right in the thick of the battle with the Nissan. But down into turn 3 it went wrong. Vautier ran a little wide, pushed both of the WRT Audis towards the outside of the circuit and through to take the lead. The 84 Mercedes given to them on a plate. Super tight around the opening lap, a little too tight in incidents around the top part of the circuit. But the full course yellow was called because one of the McLarens was off, Martin Plowman's car. That had to be cleared. So the field bunched up as soon as it was released. It was super tight out of the circuit. Christopher Mies and Frederick Verbies, 33 and 1, getting side by side on the run past the pit lane. This is the battle for second place down into turn 1, but that 84 Mercedes starting to eke its way clear. Maxi Book leading the way, not all good for the Attempto Racing 100 Lamborghini. And that's how close it was in the pit stops. The WRT Audi crew got number 1 crew so close to the 84 Mercedes, but Mercedes came out in front, and that was to count at the Hungaroring. More WRT battling, 4 and 3, the Brazilian crew just being passed down there through turn 3. Take a look, a ride around the circuit. That's one of the ISR Audis, the 74 running a little bit wide. How thick is the battle? And there, that's when it got just that little bit too close. One of the Grasser Racing Lamborghinis taking a blow at the penultimate corner of the circuit. Also going for a spin, the 55 AF Corsa Ferrari across the nose of the number 11 Kessel Racing Ferrari as well. But how's that for a drift from one of the Mercedes? But the winning car there taking the line. Baumann and Buch, victory in the 84 Mercedes. Super close behind. Second and third places to the WRT Audi crews, but advantage the 84 crew. One crew coming to the Circuit de Catalunya for the final round with their heads held very high indeed. Already crowned the Pro-Am champions. Michel Broniczewski sharing this season with Giacomo Piccini to great effect in the Kessel Racing Ferrari 488 GTE.
Not many drivers was making overall both championship. That's why I collect from both and a couple of winning on the beginning of the season. Yes, that's why the result is very nice. Oh, we are driving already second season. A lot of testing. We are preparing this season, and we have very good balance. But nice to work together. It's nice to share the car. It's working very well for us.
Claudio Stanovic is a driver who's had a fantastic 2016 season in the AF Corsa number 55 Ferrari, leading the AM class overall, leading the AM class in the Sprint Cup, and this weekend can take the Teams Championship at AF Corsa if all goes well. On this season's form, it probably will.
It's an amazing situation to be in both parts of the championship in the leading position. For sure, the motivation to finish the season with potentially 2 wins this weekend is the main goal. And the other story is we are leading the team championship as well by 10 points, and the team wants us to be on the top of the team championship as well. So these are all the motivations for this weekend.
So many titles to be decided here at the Spanish finale, and Michele Beretta, driving for the Grasser Lamborghini team, has had a wonderful run recently, and he's looking very good indeed for the honours in the Silver Cup.
I'm pretty confident. I mean, we can bring it home, the Silver Cup, and we have to, because it's important. But we want to fight for the top, because since now we missed a little bit something to get some good points in top 5, but we were quite close in some races like the Castellet, the Endurance Cup, and just a little mistake that we could do better and bring at home some good results.
Belgian racer Enzo Ida comes to Spain for potentially the largest weekend of his racing career. He could win the Sprint Cup. New teammate this weekend in Robin Frieds, but with a 17 points advantage, a podium position could be enough for the title.
Yeah, I feel quite comfortable. For this weekend I will have a new teammate, Robin Friends, but he's used to the team. He's doing both endurance and sprint championships, so he's used to the car, used to the team, so I don't think this should be a big disadvantage. We will see, it's only 17 points, 34 points to be distributed, so everything can happen. We can have technical incident on track, so you never know what's going to happen in a race weekend. But of course, it's better to start in P1 than to start in the 5th position and try to win.
So high is the level of competition in the Blancpain GT series that getting to the top in one race is hard enough. Getting it to the top in a 10-race series is another thing entirely. But Rob Bell and the McLaren crew have had a fantastic season. Will they make it 2 titles in Spain?
Anything to do with Blancpain GT is incredibly hard to win. It's incredibly hard to win a race, let alone a championship. So to be at the last race with a shot at winning another title with such a great car, great team, is absolutely phenomenal, you know, and I'm loving the position that we're in. And we're in it because we've done, you know, we've put some hard work in. But, you know, there's this last race, we've got to get lucky, we've got to work hard for 2 more days. And if we can pull it off, then it would be absolutely amazing season. It's been a great season so far, and it can be off the chart, absolutely amazing.
Maximilian Buch is another driver with a lot to play for in Barcelona. Second in the Sprint Cup at the moment, but also in with a chance of the outright title after a really strong team season with HTP Motorsport.
I mean, it's difficult with 17 points, but at the end, we need to try to win and hope that maybe the others are having some problems, and then we'll see. But we go into this weekend like any weekend before, so we'll see. When you see that we are in the lead in the overall championship, it just shows everybody that we have been consistent throughout the whole year, sprint and endurance. And at the end, it's really satisfying to see us on top at the end, at the last race, to fight for the championship.
Another driver from HTP Motorsport who's had a fantastic season is Jules Simkowiak. He comes to Barcelona 3rd placed overall, sharing with Bernd Schneider, and certainly fancies his chances of taking outright honours here at the final round of the season.
You know, it depends on the conditions, depends on how the car is running, how we are doing. And I'm just looking forward to give my best and see what we can get out. I'm here, you know, like everybody, to win. I'm gonna give everything I have. I have a birthday tomorrow, so that's maybe an extra motivation, and we'll see what comes out. Just try not to make mistakes with such a big field, so many cars. You know, a lot of things can happen also for championship leader or anybody else. Of course, I don't wish them that. I wish them all the best, but stay focused.
Welcome to the Circuit de Catalunya on a sunny Sunday morning. The qualifying race, 1 hour of action, will be starting in about 7 minutes' time. 33 cars lined up beneath our commentary position. John Watson and I relishing the action. It's been an extraordinary meeting so far. Incredible qualifying yesterday. High drama, but conditions absolutely spot on. And as we say every day here, the best time to go out on the track is first thing in the morning.
Well, it is indeed, Bruce, and we're here just after 9 o'clock in the morning. Temperatures much calmer, much more appropriate for quicker lap times, and that's what we saw on Saturday in the first of our free practice runs as we look there at the various championship positions.
Well, we've just heard from Enzo Ida. He's leading by 17 points, but the most important thing for Enzo is, of the championship challengers, he's starting the best place. He'll be starting from 3rd place on the grid, or more to the point, Robin Franks, his teammate, will be starting. And behind him are the challengers, the 84 Mercedes, which is 2nd on points. Baumann and Buch is further back on the 4th row, 8th position, and just behind the Garage 59 McLaren of Rob Bell and Alvaro Parent. Now we can see the cars stripped clear of all the mechanics. Everybody seems to have fired up. A quick look out of the window and all seems right below. There are the Phoenix Racing Audis. We saw some good pace, particularly with Markus Winkelhock with those over the course of yesterday's practice and qualifying. Look for the 23 Nissan. That's had elements of speed, but not always at the right time. But going all the way down to the pack, we had hoped to have 34 cars, but unfortunately the number 7 Bentley yesterday took to the barriers exiting turn 2, or got it wrong out of turn 2, hit the tyre wall at the entrance to turn 3, and it was an over and out for Stephen Kane for the weekend.
Yes, sadly it was. It didn't look a particularly serious incident. So by the time the car got back to the pits and the team had a look at it, what they discovered was actually the damage to the left front was much more severe than that occurred at Nürburgring 2 weeks earlier. So that car had to be withdrawn, and a very disappointed Vincent Abril and Stephen Kane are now left to just join their guests.
So, and also another car that, well, it is at least starting, but down in 18th place, always a favourite in the sprint series races. Lawrence Van Tor and Frederik Vervisch will be taking the start We thought they were having an engine change. We saw the engine out of the car, but John, you found the news about the number 1 Audi.
Yeah, sure. I mean, during the break in practice yesterday, I went down and the Audi garage, and they said they had changed an engine, but what in fact they had done was they removed the original engine. The replacement was sitting right by the car to be put into place. They discovered actually the problem was that the flywheel on the original engine had been damaged. There's a chip in one of the cogs in the flywheel, and what they did was then they just swapped the flywheels, so it meant that they didn't have to take the penalty of starting at the rear of the field, which is what we were indicated, or had been indicated to us during the qualifying broadcast. But the number 1 car managed to trip over itself and didn't get a clean run in the 3 qualifying segments, and suddenly, unexpectedly, starting all the way back on the 9th row of the grid. But
well, here is the grid, John. Frank Pereira pulled out that amazing qualifying lap, so he put his ISR Audi on the front row. Friens and Ida, look out for them, because of course they can wrap up the Sprint Cup here today. It can be taken from them by the 84 Audi, Mercedes crew. There they are, Buch and Baumann starting from 8th on the grid, but they're probably more interested in the outright honours in the championship for the 84 Mercedes crew. Looking for some movers down through the pack. Certainly, we talked about the Audis tripping themselves up, including that number 1 entry. Frederick Vervish, he's always fantastic on the opening lap of a race, so we'll certainly look for him. For Rob Bell and the McLaren crew, again, they keep their powder dry. They come good when it gets to qualifying. Starting near the front there, we can see 58 from 6th on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, the opening lap will be key because it very much creates the pattern for the race. The big difference between maybe what we saw in the afternoon and Saturday afternoon qualifying is track conditions are, I would say, as good as they're going to get for a Sunday. As we go through the day, the track will warm up. The track changes dramatically as temperatures change, and this is going to be an even warmer day, I think, than we saw in qualifying. Right now, we've got almost virtually clear blue sky, but the drivers have got the conditions. They've got to deal with it. They have to manage their tyres, and that is the other factor. That is an issue in Barcelona. The nature of the racetrack, it's an aggressive surface, so when the tyre goes into its cycle, and you've got to maybe between 25 minutes and 35 minutes to make that mandatory pit stop, some drivers will manage those tyres better than others. Some will be coming in saying the car just doesn't handle, and that's because maybe they've been a little bit too aggressive as they made their way now coming up to the start.
Yep, up through the twisting part of the circuit where you get to the right hand that turns you down the hill at turn 13. Fabulous onboard camera there on the McLaren. We thought it was great yesterday. Baz Linders will certainly be watching with interest. That's his car that's carrying it. But facing backwards with the car starting 6th on the grid, it's going to be so exciting. They're just coming up now to turn 13, where they'll turn down and go through the little chicane, 14 and 15, and then sweep through the final corner. Look for the lights on the starting gantry. The field is so bunched up. Of course, rolling starts, always tricky, but when you've got a series of slow, tight corners, the people down in the pit lane, including Pierre Donnet, the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT squad with so many cars. Look how tight it is, a car park on the move at the moment. Now through turns, as they go out of 15, they can start to open out a little bit more space for them to play with. 2x2 formation. Who will lead down to the first corner? Will it be the 74 Audi of Frank Pereira? Will it be Mirko Bortolotti going increasingly well in the Lamborghini? But in terms of the race start, the most interesting one is what Robin Friens can do with the 33 Audi from 3rd place. Lights are red, lights are out. Very clean start from pole position, looking for a charge to the back. Pretty much even Stevens. Is the camera still on the side of the McLaren? Yes, it is. Gone to the outside of the track with Alvaro Parent at the wheel. There is that wonderful low shot. You are joining the heart of the action, John, down into turn 1. The good thing that camera hasn't been knocked off. And the car has, though. It's gone off the circuit at turn 1.
Yeah, Rob Bell didn't get knocked. He went off track. He drove wide coming out of turn 1. But everybody very bunched up coming through turns 1 and 2. But it was Mirko Bortolotti that got the advantage down into turn 1, and also being pressurised, I think, by Robin Friens, who started directly behind that pole position car. But in fact, the Mercedes got through.
Well, so hard to tell. We can see there the 74 Audi is next, so with losing ground, Frank Pereira. But look, Robin Friens into the lead of the race. Enzo Ida can't afford to jump up and down
Contact with the 88 Mercedes and Frank Pereira, so something has happened to Pereira, whether he's got a tyre cut down, probably the most likely thing. So contact at turn 5 as the Mercedes consolidates, and again, look at that, the 84 car directly behind that.
Yeah, Pereira certainly something untoward. He was well placed into that first corner sequence, the 1 and 2 so close together, then maybe pushed a little bit wide to the outside and lost loads of places, and number 4 is off. That is Dries van Tor. Enzo Ida's relieved it's not his own car. That is leading the race, and for Enzo, he's waiting. He's determined to land the Sprint Cup today. This is the qualifying race. Look how close it is at the front. Look how the McLaren is really on the charge. And right under the tail of Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini. Drops back a little bit to get a slingshot out of turn 12 and then down towards 13. We'll see who comes around at the end of the lap. At the front, it's been a good lap for the 85 Mercedes crew, sorry, the 86 Mercedes crew, the one with the green stripe. They've got up to about third position, but the best lap of all, I wanted to see how Robin Freins would go in the 33 Audi, and beneath our commentary position with almost a 2-second lead. Let's see what it is. It's a 2-second lead as they come past.
Everybody running very wide coming out of turn 16, but what is interesting is how did Robin Freins get that lead, because though he was on the inside coming down into turn 1, we need to get a replay as we see Dries van Thor's Audi being retrieved from, well, I'm not quite sure which part of the track it is. It's going back to the 23 Nissan, and it is down in 13th position. So it's actually number 8 Bentley all over the back, and they had contact from the Bentley in the back of the Audi, so whether that was bodywork from the Bentley or the Audi, difficult to tell, but it was side by side and almost banging one another. Well, this is 75 not going to give up. Philippe Salaquada.
No, Philippe Salaquada, it was his bodywork went into the rear right fender, then a little more damage on the other flank, so really tight stuff, but hats off at the moment to Robin Freins, who's given Enzoida the dream start to this race, up from third after that great qualifying from the Dutch racer, and limping back into the pits. That is one of the Phoenix Audis. Definitely a lot of damage. It's crabbing its way down the pit lane. Maxime Soule very positive in the opening laps of the race, and as we've seen, just picked his way up to 8th place. There is our race leader. That is a very handy lead for Robin Freins. Jules Simkowiak, we heard from him just before the start of the race, holding down 2nd place. Take a look at the start, John. How do you read this?
It's the third car, the Audi on the left-hand side as it comes down. That's Robin Freins, but you see also the red Mercedes Felix Rosenqvist trying to make it a sort of 5-wide run down. At this point, Mirko Bortolotti looked to have the lead, but then it's Robin Freins dives down the inside, and the Lamborghini looks like it might have consolidated second, but it gets squeezed. But you know, how many cars wide can you get on the straight coming down into the turn 1? But a great run by Robin Freins. Mirko Bortolotti looked like he was going to be in position, but then got squeezed. And that's why those cars cut the inside. Now I wonder, will they have to give those positions back up?
Well, we'll have to see, but what you could see was Jules Simkowiak came so wide, and Alvaro Perez and the McLaren had to sort of go wide to avoid him, but both of them were wide off the circuit. Simkowiak got back on across, but it all worked so well indeed for Robin Freins up the inside. Not so well for Frank Pereira for pole. Here is Dries van Thor's Audi quickly back to the pits, having been recovered, and one of the Phoenix cars is in, which is Marcus Winkelhock, the number 6 Audi. That has got a lot of damage. That was crabbing down the pit lane. Out on the circuit, though, 2.5 seconds clear is Robin Freins ahead of Jules Simkowiak.
Yes, so we got the Lamborghini in third place, just under a second, but there is the lead Audi. Robin Freins made full advantage, and in fact, after qualifying yesterday, in an interview we heard with Enzo Eid, he said that we are in third position, but more critically, we're directly behind pole sitting car on the inside going into turn 1. That's a great position to be, and Robin Freins has translated that great position into the lead of this race by a comfortable 2.5 seconds.
And also a figure that was there's Enzo Eid walking across. He doesn't have to worry too much about number 4. That's not his car. He started this race with a 17-point advantage. You see the damage on the front end of Frank Pereira's. Sorry, that's 25. It's not Frank Pereira. That's a bit further down the pack. It's Romain Monti. There's clearly been quite a lot of damage, and for both, unfortunately, Audi seem to be the magnet for trouble on the opening lap. You see the headlight is pushed back. That's on a 26 car as well, so it's not been the best of starts for their team, has it?
It was a very closely bunched grid. I mean, they were so tightly packed as they came out of turn 16 that the inevitable happens into turn 1 when everybody is still at the back of the grid on the throttle and those at the front of the grid are on the brakes. You get the traditional concertina effect, and just as you say, the Audis seem to be the ones that have suffered most, but there's been a fair amount of opening lap contact between the lead cars. Forget what's going on in the mid or the tail of the field. It's all been action up at the front, but the break that Robin Freins is making, he's taken another half a second a lap. Fastest lap consecutively overall in his opening laps.
Just to go back to the point situation, Freins, or more to the point, Ida, his teammate, was 17 points clear before the start of this race. If they go on and take victory, that's another 8 points. That puts them 25 points clear. Maxi Bouk at the moment is not down to get points, has to get into the top 6, so that will give them 25 points clear. How many points for victory in the main race? 25 points.
Exactly.
Oh, how tight could that be? But it really means that Maxi Bouk has got to get up onto the tail, get past Frank Pereira, whose car looked a little bit damaged, but let's see, now Frank is actually settling down. Sorry, it wasn't his that was damaged, and now really setting to Felix Rosenqvist in the ACA ASP Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason the 74 Audi just dropped back. I don't know whether the contact had unsettled Frank Pereira or not. But now that everything is sort of into, well, we're on lap 4, beginning to get some kind of pattern, the Audi is able to come back, and the 88 Mercedes, which has been driven by Felix Rosenqvist, had contact with the 74. So they're battling over that 5th place as the field is now beginning to gradually sort of space itself out. But there's that Mercedes with the red fluorescent flashes on the side and on the roof. That's the car that needs to make some progress to keep in touch. But remember, we're only, 7 or so minutes into this 1 hour race. We've got that mandatory pit stop between 25 and 35 minutes. We know that during the course of a longish run, that tyre performance will deteriorate, and if you go long in that 10-minute window break, you can find yourself losing more time than you would be gaining. So it's a real team principle, if you like, team manager role, to make the judgment as to when is the best time to make your pit stop, as we ride on board with Maxime Soulet in no, it's not Maxime, let's see.
In 8th place overall. You can just see him coming down the hill, the back of the pack, behind the 84 Mercedes, which is in 2 championship battles in the Sprint Cup, which we've discussed, chasing down Enzo Ida. But just want to point, Enzo should be smiling even more. Another 0.3 of a second gain, fastest lap of the race by Robin Friis. How much is he caning those tyres though? He's making the break. Robin will know, but the most important thing that Robin did was get the 33 Audi into the lead of the race at the start. He's going to let the rest sort out. If we then flip to looking at the overall championship spread across the 10 rounds, leading by 5 points is the 84 Mercedes. That is running in 7th place. 3 places further ahead, very positive from Alvaro Parent, is the car that's behind, and that's the one that Rob Bell will be taking over, and Bell can take a real tilt at overall honours. He's already bagged the Endurance Cup honours at the Nürburgring 2 weekends ago with Komi Ledegaard and Shane van Gisbergen. There is the McLaren, a little lead of about a second or so over Felix Rosenqvist in the red Mercedes, number 88. But it's Robin Friis leading by 3.5 seconds ahead of Jules Simkowiak. So there is Friis looking really untroubled, but well, he's carrying speed very well indeed there.
Yeah, but I think the reason he's looking untroubled is because he's got clear racetrack. He's not having to compromise any of his driving to extend that advantage that he has over the second place Mercedes-Benz. Enzo looks comfortable. He knows that he'll be taking over the wheel of this car in a little over 20 minutes, in fact. So there is the eye, or those are the eyes of Robin Friis as he comes through turn 16 on now to the main straight. There is the lead car, goes across the line for the 5th time, and the gap was 3.5 seconds. It's now 3.9 seconds, again continuing to take 0.4 of a second advantage out of the pursuing but falling back group with 86 Mercedes and the 63 Lamborghini. There's the other car that's in the championship, and then the 3rd car in the championship is the Mercedes of Max Buch, and he hasn't been able to, at this point. Now remember, it's going to be about how you preserve your tyre, and as we get to near the moment of the pit stop window opening up, we may begin to see some movement from some cars that are currently not actually making what they might be seen as an attacking maneuver. They're pushing, but they know that they need to preserve what they've got, otherwise they could be vulnerable themselves.
Well, Robin Friis looking very, very calm there, and it's worth pointing out the car in 2nd place, Jules Simkowiak, sharing with Bernd Schneider. If they finish the race as they are now, they'll go 2nd in the Sprint Cup ahead of the feature race, because they're only 3 points behind the sister car, 84. Enzo Ida, arms across his chest, looking at the screen. It's going absolutely as he could have dreamt of. Yesterday there were slight hiccups, but Robin Friis took over. It was a 2-driver qualifying session. He nailed it, put it 3rd on the grid. That was the job done. This is the second part of the job, extending the lead with every corner taken around the circuit. Just under 4 seconds at the end of the last lap, but this is the race that he has to control.
Oh, he's controlling it, and he's doing it extremely well, as we see. Going back to this position with Maximilian Buch in 7th position, what's critical to him is his last lap was 1:49.2. When you compare that to the sister car of Simkowiak, which is doing a 48.3. So by being caught on that group of cars, he can't make that progress. He hasn't got the opportunity to pick up the pace. He needs somehow to get that clear air, but it's not going to be given to him.
Our timing screens give us many stories. Incident with car number 4 under investigation. That was Dries van Toor's Audi that ended up in the gravel. Also, team managers of 86 and 58, the 2 cars that ran wide at the first corner. Simkowiak in 2nd place and Alvaro Parent in 4th place. Another twist to the story,
John.
I
think the 58 car, it went wide more for circumstance, but it was clear that a number of cars, we didn't get all of them clearly, had to sort of cut across the inside of turn 2, and in doing so, if you've gained position, then you would be required to get that position back up. But I think that we noticed one of the ISR Audis, the 74 car, I think, had a lot of front-end damage. I suspect that may have been the reason why Dries van Thor ended up off track, and that's probably why the car's being investigated.
Yeah, in fact, it was the 26 Santalok Audi that started the row behind number 4. So yes, you don't have to be too much of a Sherlock Holmes to suggest we can work that one out. So we'll keep an eye on the screen, see how it shakes out. But Felix Rosenqvist, so positive in many races, is ahead of our pole starter in the 74, but he's holding him up.
Correct.
And in turn, he's holding up Maxi Boot. Maxime Soulet can sort of get there. Wait a second, there is the Bentley in the background. He's had the attacking run to get behind the Audi, ahead of the Audi that's behind him. Now, he hasn't managed to close in onto Boot, but the 74 Audi, the 84 Mercedes are definitely being delayed by Felix Rosenqvist.
It's the red Mercedes 88 of Rosenqvist, who normally receives great pace, but not here at the minute. And it's that lack of pace that's causing or allowing, in part, Robin Freins to escape. The gap still now 3.9 seconds. It's sort of stabilised between the second and first position cars. But this group of 3 cars is going to be very shortly a group of 4, and maybe a group of 5, maybe a group of 6 or a group of 7, all stacked up behind the red 88 Mercedes of Rosenqvist. So Max Book drops back a little bit as he comes through turn 16, but not necessarily a bad thing, because that allows him to pick up his own natural pace and momentum. As we see the Audi now trying to get close to the back of Rosenqvist coming into turn 1, clearly quicker, and again, but nowhere to go. This is the nature of Barcelona. The corners, the way they blend into one another, make it very difficult. And straight line performance of all these cars is so similar. There's no opportunity really to make a clean pass unless an error coming out of turn 16.
We got to this point in the race, we haven't really talked about BMW. Their better placed car is the 99 car with Alexander Sims, just 2 places behind the Bentley of Maxime Soulet, number 8, running around in 8th place. The sister car, however, started at the very rear of the grid. Stepp Dusseldorf has gained about 4 or 5 positions, but that was because they put their drivers in the wrong order in qualifying yesterday. Just one of those ridiculous things. Anyhow, they dropped the ball there, so for the 98 car, out of the reckoning for now, will be trying to pick its way up from the back, but with the problems you suggested, John, getting past. We can see here the speed that Franck Pereira displayed to put that 74 Audi onto pole position is still with him, but he couldn't get any closer without getting into the boot of Felix Rosenqvist's ACA ASP Mercedes.
I mean, and coming down into turn 10, that's another place that is open to overtaking, but you can see the Audi was nowhere near in a position to make even a wild lunge down the inside. And again, the 84 Mercedes, Maximilian Book, trying to just position himself that the battle ahead of him, if they get a little bit close to one another, that he's there to pick up the pieces. But in the process, the clock's ticking down. We're 15 minutes almost now into this race. 10 minutes time, pit lane will be open. I'm going to stay on board with Max Book.
Well, we can see his complete frustration. Close, but not close enough, coming through the final corner onto the start-finish straight. As you said, very few cars can gain on those ahead of him. Catch a slight slipstream, but no one has an engine advantage down the straight. And if you've never looked at the Circuit de Catalunya before, you might have noticed it's sloping down to turn 1, far more than you can see on the screen. Trying to pick his line, not close enough to do anything. He's now just in sort of tyre preservation until he can see a chink in the armour, John.
Well, all that can happen is that the 88 Mercedes, Rosenqvist, gets a little bit loose somewhere around the racetrack, allows the Audi to slip up the inside, and that then in turn might draw the 84 Mercedes directly behind into that position. But Rosenqvist is driving, he's not making any errors, he's not opening up any opportunities, but the problem is his pace is still slower than the pace of those at the front. If we go back to the 22, Nissan making a pass down into turn 1 and looking to see...
That's Shaw Walkinshaw, just down 27th place. Down towards the tail of the field. In fact, he's
up to 26th.
Up to 26th. He's just overtaken. The last time the SRO was here at the circuit was 13 years ago. The driver he's just overtaken was the only one who was in that race and this, Jean-Philippe Belloc. So places gained at the back. It can be done, but at the front end, it's all the harder. You can see the gaggles of cars just trying to get the space to the track. Nicky Katzberg in the 98 BMW there will be picking up places, but he should be.
Bruce, just look at the timing, the last lap of all these cars. We're just watching now. Their lap times are all in the low 1 minute 52s, 53s, contrasting the pace of the leading car at 1 minute 48. And that's the penalty of being at the back of the grid. You may have more natural pace, but because you're now long jammed in a group of cars that can't really go any quicker, and it's hard to find a way. Barcelona is traditionally a circuit that overtaking is difficult on, partly because of the nature of the long corners that they have, and also just here this main straight. In the case of the Blancpain GT cars, the straight line performances of them are all so equally matched, and all you have to do is either force somebody into an error or be careful you don't create the error yourself.
And the advantage goes out by another third of a second. Robin Friens 5.4 seconds clear of Jules Simkowiak. In third place, Mirko Bortolotti 1.5 seconds down on the 86 Mercedes. Then there's a bit of a gap. It's 4.5 seconds back to Alvaro Parent in the McLaren, but he too is sitting on a world of his own. And then comes that train of cars. Felix Rosenqvist, that was the different McLaren, don't get confused. That was the second place McLaren, Andrew Watson.
Just to illustrate what I was saying, that the Nissan just made a position on the Mercedes, and instantly on that last lap the car went but by a second and a lap quicker. Let's have a look and see what's happening. Oh yeah, but
it's a replay. Well, that's where things get too close. Nicky Katzberg a lap ago it got a little bit hairy, and I guess it'll continue to be a bit hairy because the 98 BMW was determined to get past. Very dusty moment for Walkinshaw. That is why he was out of position.
So that's maybe the position change, so that may well be another position that has to be given, but he has given it back up because we saw him staying wide coming through turn 16, so really messy in that middle or tail end of the grid. But what the point I was trying to make was once the 22 Nissan got clear, its natural pace would be quicker than those cars that he was in a group of. So now he's gotten clear, he's able to lap a second, a lap quicker.
Here is a points predictor. If they finish as they are now, Enzo Ida, Christopher Mies is not here this weekend. He normally shares with Enzo Ida, but he will be 22 points clear. Simkowiak and Schneider. For Baumann and Buch, 62 is becoming incredibly simple. They have to win the final race, the main race this afternoon. And they would win it on, they'd have equal points. This is with Enzo Ida not getting any points at all, John. Not coming away with nothing. So it's almost down to the infinite point. But, as we've seen, 5 abreast into turn 1 at the start of the race doesn't work. That could happen all over again. Someone could end up in the gravel. Right now, we just have to focus on what is happening on the circuit. Robin Friens is giving a really nice, comfortable buffer to the team so they can be just super careful on their pit stop. Enzo get on board, probably at the latest moment, and then drive through to the end of the race.
Well, as long as we're just coming up to 20 minutes into the race, looking into the HTP garage and looking, stroking of the chin and wondering, well, we're still running in 7th place. We need to get into the top 6 to get some points, but we're not able to do anything because there's this little battle going ahead. 5th place with Rosenqvist and then Frank Pereira, which is preventing Maximilian Buch being able to run at a pace which would be similar to that of the sister car, the 86 car, which is running in 2nd place now, 6.1 seconds behind the race leader Robin Friens. So on board once again, Maximilian Buch out of turn 9, run down into turn 10. A little bit bumpy on the right hand side there, as you could just see the slight dip in the road. Now Pereira looks to make a move up the inside, but not really in position. Has to back out of it because as they go through turn 11 and into turn 12, this is really follow my leader. And this is part of the reason why it's so hard. You can't do anything. If you, by turn 10, if you haven't got yourself alongside, you're going to have to wait until you get back to turn 1 because there's really nowhere in those following 6 corners that offers up an opportunity. But Pereira pushing hard, looks to be closer than ever he has been to the tail of the 88 Mercedes onto the straight. Watch this time. This is going to be the best chance the Audi has had to make a move. But again, you can see the 2-3 car lengths gap. But Pereira may be picking up a little bit of slipstream. He's going to have to make a very late move if he thinks he can get it done. He has a look, but he realises he's too far back.
Rosenqvist realised that as well. Few car lengths behind them, 8 and 75 Maxime Soulet. We saw a clash with Philippe Salicarda's 75 Audi. That is under investigation. When we said there was a clash, there were 2 clashes. So
at
least we're being just kind to them on a Sunday morning here at the Circuit de Catalunya. Story of the race so far, 20 minutes in. Robin Friens started 3rd, got into the lead at the first corner as the cars tried to go in 5 abreast. A couple of cars ran wide, and since then he has eked his advantage more and more with every lap, opening out an advantage of, at the moment, 6.3 seconds over the 2nd place Mercedes of Jules Simkowiak. Championship challenger, we're riding on board right now. The 84 Mercedes shared by Buch and Baumann. Maxi Buch on board, there's nothing he can do to get past Frank Pereira, who's in the Audi ahead of him, who in turn is stuck right under the tail of Felix Rosenqvist.
In fairness to Buch,
he's not trying.
He's not trying. He's sitting there. He's just waiting to pick up the pieces. He's feeling that the inevitable is coming. That there's going to be a maneuver from the Audi somewhere on the 88 Mercedes-Benz, and I'm going to be in position. I'm not going to be right on the gearbox, the rear wing of the Audi. I want to have that little bit of gap to give myself maneuverability. But closing up, you can see how much quicker he was able to close up to the back of the Audi. The 84 Mercedes has got more grip, but it just hasn't got the opportunities to find a way past. As again, Audi right on the rear wing of the 88 Mercedes coming through turn 15 now into 16. He needs to get as close as he can to try and give himself an opportunity to pass. Bertolotti closing up a little bit on the second place Mercedes-Benz, that gap down to 1.5 seconds, but watch coming top of the screen.
Important element right here, just looking at the overall championship points. We've been talking about Maxi Bug and Dominic Baumann. They have 129 points in the overall series, but ahead of them on the circuit, and now close to within 2 points of them, is the 58 McLaren. Alvaro Parente at the wheel at the moment. He will hand over to Rob Bell. Rob is second in the championship at the moment. This going very well indeed for them. This is the qualifying race. The feature race is this afternoon. But it's with every lap that Maxi Bug in the 84 Mercedes is pinned back behind this duo. And now Maxime Soulet is getting a bit closer. This is great news for the Garage 59 McLaren crew.
I mean, this is what the 84 car got to be aware of, is that the number 8 Bentley is closing. What they don't want is to have to see Maximilian Bug take his focus away from what's happening ahead of him to get into a defense mode to keep the Bentley behind. He wouldn't want to have the Bentley get ahead. That would demote him down to 8th place, and that would just further compound. Not only would it mean he wouldn't finish in points, but it would mean that they were to finish in the positions they currently are running in, but the Bentley and Mercedes reversed. That would be a 4th grid start for the 84 Mercedes-Benz. So a lot to lose. Just got to be thoughtful and careful. Again, the 88 car slow into turn 10, and the Audi picks up the pace. Again, everybody then just closes down, nose to tail, coming through turns 11 and 12, and then the short run down to turn 13.
Now we're starting to look towards the pit stop time coming up very soon. How long?
Drive-through penalty to car 86 and 58.
86 and 58 have got drive-through penalties for going wide at the first corner. That's the second place car on the track. That's Jules Simkowiak, and it's the 4th place car. It's Alvaro Parente. It's that McLaren, the Garage 59 McLaren. So having just discussed the point, saying that his teammate Rob Bell is within 2 points in the overall championship, but it also brings 84 2 places further forward.
But not that they've got to make that drive-through penalty before they make their pit stop, and the window pit stop is going to open up in under a minute. So that is a really tough break for the 58 and the 86. Whether they gained any advantage or not, that's something that race directors will have been able to see from other camera angles, but that is a real, I mean, for the 58 car in particular, which was a championship potential winning car, to make the drive-through penalty, you can just about kiss any chances goodbye.
Well, exactly.
And for Maximilian Bug,
it's a kiss of championship
manna from heaven. He's not done anything, but it's just been given to him on a plate.
Well, who knows what the team communicated from the wall from the start of the race. Did they say they've seen the message on the screen that 58 is under investigation? Well, that has come to roost. So Jules Simkowiak, young Dutch racer, plays second, and we've got a bit of a change there. That's the number, which is the 26. That's the Bononomi Mike Parisi car, number 26. That already had damage on the front end, we think, from contact with the number 4 Audi on the opening lap, but that's out at turn 5.
Yeah, beached in the gravel at turn 5, so that's going to need some outside assistance. So it'll be a localised yellow. It is in sector 2 now, and nobody allowed to overtake, and the car will have to remain there until one of the track vehicles comes and puts a snatch rope to it and pulls it clear. So Robin Frames extends that gap. It was 6.1 seconds a couple of laps ago. Simkowiak, who was second, is showing being 7.4 seconds behind. Still staying out, hasn't chosen to make that drive-through penalty. He needs to do it because there's Rob Bell doing it now. Well, Rob Bell's doing the right thing.
That's Alvaro Parente.
He's doing the right thing. Make the drive-through penalty at the earliest opportunity.
84, Rosenquist is in. Book is in,
and the Bentley
Soulet is in, and so let's see how good these pit stops can be. The Bentley, the first to its pit garage, that's closest to pit entry, but suddenly this is looking pretty good for Book and Baumann in the 84 Mercedes. But what I did notice is Robin Friens, his lap times are dropping away, but not as fast as the laps are dropping away for those behind him. No. He's keeping his tyres sweeter for longer.
What's critical here is for the HTP team to turn around the 84 car, get Dominic Baumann behind the wheel, and get out ahead of the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes-Benz, the car that was basically holding up that group of 3 other cars behind. So the pit work between the two Mercedes teams. As we Alvaro Pérez back out, so he will probably be coming back in probably at the end of this lap to hand over to Rob Bell, having served his penalty. Waiting to see Semkoviak making his penalty before he can make go. There we go, quick, get it. Oh, is it a safe release? Is it an unsafe release?
Well, 8 has moved ahead of 84 then in that pit stop.
It did, and more importantly, the 88 got out ahead as well.
Yeah, well, the 88 was ahead coming in, so stretched his advantage, but that was the proper place change between 8 and 84.
And in fact, 2 cars got ahead of the Mercedes. So HTP's pit stop clearly didn't get the job done. In fact, there's been a negative.
So just as we thought it was swinging back the way of the 84 Mercedes crew, it swung the other way with not the best of pit stops. Still out there, still going round, and I suggest that our race leader, Robin Friens, will go round until the final moment he can come in. 86 has come in from what effectively was second place, but that is not for the pit stop, as we mentioned, John. Can't hand over to Bernd Schneider. Jules Simkoviak has to have the drive-through penalty. The McLaren's already done that, and we'll let you know precisely where that has put the McLaren back in the order. And as you can see, the 86 Mercedes has to go at standard regulation pit
50
speed.
kilometers per hour down the pit lane.
It seems as slow as can be, but of course that's for safety reasons.
So it's going to be a bit of a change when we get this whole drive-through penalty pit stop window sorted out. The pit stop will be open, window will be open for another 7 minutes. So Semkoviak will come around. He may just go straight back into the pit lane and make that driver change to Bernd Schneider. And it was down here that the 58 and the 86, as we see now, the 26 car being
pulled apart.
Yeah, that's
unfortunately that hasn't hooked onto the right part. That's
a bit of a
try and hook it to the car, not the bodywork. That would be good.
There is a 2i as the number 3 car of Rodrigo Baptista. Sergio Jimenez comes in, the 28, makes his way back out. Will Stevens and Rennie Rast.
Yeah, Stevens just taken that one over.
That car showed when it came in to be in 6th place, but of course that was sort of the crossover between those coming in and those going out. So we're not, again, a car that Will Stevens, Rennie Rast, you'd expect that to be on natural pace at the very front, but the qualifying conditions and tyre performances were the factors that really sort of threw a curve ball into qualifying.
Yeah, it's worth a lot. Mentioning a lot of circuits, you sort of know where you are with tyres, but here at the Circuit de Catalunya, as it's proved over the decades, 25 years old, almost to the week, it's a circuit that really is so hard on the tyres. Right, looking to see if the 58's coming in. No, it's not, and then
is that the sister car, the
that
59?
Is the sister car, I think, with the black wing. No, that's 58.
Okay,
So
58 has made his driver change.
Okay.
So Rob Bell down behind the wheel. The other McLaren was the 59 car.
Going beneath our commentary position, yes. So Robin Friens staying out in the 33. There's one of the yellow flashes. That's 58. 33 still leading the race, but getting caught in traffic, but not for a great deal longer. He's just popping out to the shots, isn't he? Robin Friens looks totally calm. He's probably thinking, I've got to get a flight tonight, go to Hong Kong.
Yes,
do a bit of Formula E next.
I mean, having clear air and just driving the racetrack as if he's the only person on it, and you can't ask for better. You could just control every element of the speed you need, and he's pulled out a gap. Currently it's the 2nd place Lamborghini staying out. Mirko Bortolotti, that's 8.3 seconds behind. I mean, you remember 8.3 seconds is a nice lead to have, but it could be one locking nut when you come to make a tyre change, and that can just go as quickly as you think. But it will be coming up to the traffic that Robin Friens will maybe now be thinking, when is the best time for me to make the pit stop? I don't want to get caught behind the 59 McLaren, which we just see there. He wants to get clear air as consistently as he possibly can. And there is the WRT team. They will be discussing that. And then they will say pit now to Robin Friens as the 99 BMW leaves the pit lane, and it's been caught.
Well, that was running in about 10th place before the pit stop cycle.
Came in 5th place. It's obviously dropped down. As a consequence, now will Robin Friens come in this lap? No. Decides to keep him out for one more lap. I'm just curious to see the pace of the McLaren, the 59 McLaren directly ahead. How much that'll have a bearing on the last. Friens' last lap for the first time since the race started has dropped into the 150s, and cars around him. Bortolotti is doing 149.8, so that's 3/10, 4/10.
Yeah, but that's the first time we've seen Bortolotti actually take time out of Robin Friens in the race lead. Yes, there is now traffic. You can see the 2 McLarens ahead of our race leader, Robin Friens. Most likely this is his final lap, but being chased down by Mirko Bortolotti has also yet to stop. He's running in in second place, and still out there from Pereira, the driver who started on pole, got monstered through the first 3 corners, fell down into the thick of that battle, running around in 6th and 7th places a lot of the run through to his pit stops. He's running 3rd, ahead of Norbert Siedler.
And then Norbert Siedler's the first of the Pro-Am drivers, so they've elevated themselves up to that position through staying out, and they're going to be one of the late pit stoppers as the 85 Mercedes just down the pit lane.
Just want to point out 85 has been investigated for incident at turn 5 with the 26 Audi that we saw the Audi in the gravel. So for Jasm and Jafar, no penalty listed as yet. Release of car 84 under investigation. If you're a championship challenger, put your hand up and an incident will come to you. We queried that. We thought it was very close indeed. So which championship challenger hasn't got a problem at the moment? In terms of the Sprint Cup, it's the 33 Audi that's leading the race.
I don't know why that's the number 8 Bentley being... It's incident between 8 and 75 under investigation. It wasn't in the pit lane, that was the 88.
No, 84 in the pit lane,
yes.
which is the pull-out, which is Maxi Buick handing over to Dominic Baumann. We queried that. 8 and 75 was the 2 clashes between the Bentley. But Robin Freets goes around for 1 more lap, so he's obviously decided I'm doing
maximum we can do.
Maximum I can do. Should be the end of this lap. He'll come round. Hasn't got too much ahead of him, so he's on the circuit. So he's thinking maybe just keep going, give Enzo the 25.5 minutes towards the end of the race to take it through to, if it's a victory, will lead to huge excitement. This is the start, as you can see now. 58.
There's the
goes to the outside. You'll
yes.
see the green flash Mercedes will give him little chance to cut back on. Was he already off?
Fair cop. In a sense, the McLaren also got forced wide by the 86 Mercedes doing that. It was a fair cop. So 86, they made that decision. They could have backed out and lost the position, but stayed on track. But they opted not to do that, and consequently they've had that drive through. So there's the 63 car in. Mirko Bortolotti finally makes a pit stop, handing over to Nicholas Pola, and so that car, interesting to see where that will fall. Robin Freins will be coming in at the end of this lap because the pit stop window will close in just under a minute and a half.
Yeah, Robin is half a lap away. He's got to get down to the second timing sector, which is just before 10.
So Kowiak into the pits. So Bernd Schneider, having this Mercedes drove through just a lap earlier. So the young Belgian and the more senior German.
And in the background, you can see standing in the pit lane looking for number 33 is Enzo Ida, the cream-coloured overalls, the black and red flashes. His back to us, looking up the pit lane. Robin Freins has gone into the final sequence of corners, will be coming in very, very shortly. In fact, that was an ASP driver waiting to take over, but Enzo will be waiting for this car, number 33, and what a great start to their Sunday. This is the qualifying race, 2 one-hour races today. This one doesn't have as many points. There's the black-helmeted Enzo Ida. 8-6, 4-3-2-1 for the top 6, and you'd have to say it would be a disaster if this one doesn't pick up at least the 1 point for 6th place, but looking really for the full 8 points on offer this afternoon. Robin Freins, his morning's work has come to a conclusion once he's popped his belts, brought the car to a standstill in front of the WRT pits, and handed over to the driver who's waiting, Enzo Ida.
So out one gets, in the other gets. Plenty of time for a driver change. The seat insert that Robin Freins uses has been removed. And going to the left rear removed. The new tire goes on, picks up the old one. Car down.
And of course, one of the advantages.
And that's a quick stop. I mean,
very quick stop.
Really good stop.
We expect that from WRT, helped by the fact that pit lane is all but empty. There was an Audi just slightly down the lane from them, so no crowding in the pit lane for them. Back out, so that's worked incredibly well. Back out as though onto a practice session. Where is everybody else? Wonderful long shot. Behind is the answer,
Bruce,
of course,
the answer
John.
is they're behind.
But there's also no other traffic, and pit window now closed. WRT did their job absolutely well. The car that should be coming through in second place should be that Lamborghini number 63 with Nicholas Pola on board, or has, in fact, the Audi from Pereira got out ahead, which is okay. The Lamborghini's got ahead of the Audi, so they went in a lap earlier. The Audi, just as we went looking for it, that has come out, and
there is the 88 Mercedes-Benz now with Tristan Foutier.
That's fourth place.
He's running in clear air. He's got nobody behind him, no pressure. All he needs to do is just focus on what he can do with the 74 Audi directly ahead of him. And there is what will be the second place Lamborghini. There will be the third place Audi.
Marlon
the fourth
Stockinger.
place, fourth place Mercedes.
Right, I expect to see the Mercedes now with a clear track hunt down Marlon Stockinger. The battle behind Will Stevens in the 28th and Lawrence Van Tor started 18th. They're up to 6th.
But once again, if you want to call it the big loser in this battle, Robin Frien's explaining to the team that was probably one of the easiest days' work I've had. So, well, there's some. Well, read the body language. It's not entirely a happy conversation.
But the team boss looked relatively happy, the engineer. But it was a case of Robin. You know, what more could he have done? He ran a car waiting to be
Ferraris off the track.
Right. What we need to see, what we've seen already, is Maxi Book. Well, he's done his bit. It wasn't as good as he would have wanted. Thus, the slight grimaces all around. That was interesting from Robin Fritz. Such a good job. Now let's see what Enzo can do out on the circuit, sitting on a lead of, well, we'll see.
It's
Next
going to
time
be
around,
just double.
16 seconds. It's
absolutely double that he had when he went into the pit.
So great job by the crew in the pit stop.
They
as
won
well.
This. The crew has won it for 33 car.
Just look, there is nobody in the backdrop, not even anybody who is about to be lapped or has been lapped. So way clear. Enzo Ida, 14.4 seconds clear of the green Lamborghini, number 63. Nicholas Pola, Marlon Stockinger. It's not the black Ferrari has been lapped. That's the Black Pearl Racing entry of Hook and Parrow. There's third place, Stockinger. Fourth place, twitching a little bit, under braking into turn 1. Tristan Vautier. I've got an eye on this Bentley, number 8, started to work its way up the order. We saw it was fairly feisty the second half of the first stint. And it's got Dominic Baumann chasing it around. So it's Stevens, Lawrence Van Tor, Maxime Soulet in the number 8 Bentley, and Dominic Baumann, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, all super competitive, but I think it's getting quite feisty in the battle for 5th place there.
Yeah, I mean, the two Audis, you've got Lawrence Van Tor in the number 1 Audi, who started further back, and then Will Stevens in the 28. So neither is prepared to concede. These are team cars, and the principle of being a team member is you don't take your teammate off, or you don't put one of the two cars into jeopardy. But Lawrence Van Tor, looking as he came into turn 3, trying to indicate, like, I'm quicker than you will, I want to get through, I want to make progress. But you, I think, from the point of view of the 28 car, if you want to make progress, you better do it all on your own.
Certainly must. Okay, now picking off the Black Pearl Racing Ferrari, easily done there in the chasing pack. Oh, the place is made. Very easy. I'd say that Will Stevens said, up you go then. You've been pushing, through you go. I've had the message from the team, yes, you just a little bit quicker. You never admit to it that another racing driver is a lot faster than you. But Lawrence Van Tor is through now into 5th place. Will Stevens down to 6th. Now the next car that we try to catch up with Will Stevens will be the number 8 Bentley. Let's see how they can handle the traffic.
Well, that was a clear team play, letting the 28 car, let the number 1 car get ahead, simply because there was more pace from Lawrence Van Tor, and that's the right thing to do. You don't want to impede the quicker of the two cars. Whether Lawrence Van Tor can make any progress on Tristan Vautier, 4.5, just under 5 seconds. But look, he's behind one of the Black Pearl Ferraris and struggling to get past on straight line speed, only at the very end of the straight. And also Stevens just ducks under the rear wing of his sister car and makes that pass as well. But the gap, 15.5 seconds between first and second, I mean, that is, I put that down to a great piece of pit work. Wonderful drive by Robin Frienz, but the time has been doubled. As we see the Bentley again, trying to just make that battle with those two Audis. The 28 Audi is the next car he has in his sights. Well, the number 84 Mercedes is the big loser. And I mean, I understood in the first part before the pit stops that Book was just playing time to see what was going to happen to the two cars ahead. But their pit stop seemed to have lost them further position. And Dominic Baumann isn't able to do any more than Maximilian Book could do.
No, Dominic was just catching up a little bit with Maxime Soulet, with the quartet of cars going past the Black Pearl Racing Ferrari. The Bentley's gained and the 84 Mercedes has lost for the moment. Let's see what it can do. But you know, the clock is ticking down. We're into the final 20 minutes of the race. Enzo Ida sitting on that fabulous lead. But I mean, it's worth reiterating, it wasn't just doubled. I think it was about a 6-second lead before they came in. It was 18 seconds when they came out. It's down to, it's gone down very slightly to Nicholas Pola. No, in fact, it went out last lap. Oh, and now Enzo's starting to wind it up. It's getting up to speed into the 1:49. So that's a good lap at the moment. Most people lapping just north of 1:50.
But he doesn't need to push. He doesn't. The danger of pushing as hard as he's doing right now is there's not a lot of margin left between staying on the track and going off the track. So while he's got a 15.7 second advantage over the second place Lamborghini, there it is. You know, control your pace, keep your rhythm, and just let yourself start to breathe a little bit more slowly. Just allow your whole sort of metabolism just to sort of slow down. But there we are, that's the gap, 16 seconds in round figures between first and second.
Well, the battle for second place is tightening up a wee bit because Martin Stockinger in the 74 Audi is just taking little chunks of time. Well, in fact, he just lost a large chunk of time, as I said that, in the first sector of the lap. But last time round, he was 2/10 quicker than Nicolas Pola in that 63 Lamborghini that's holding down a second place. But Stockinger, well, you can see how close they are. 1.3 seconds is the gap, so that could go either way. We'll see how good their tyre life is towards the end of their stint. But for the tyre racer, Stockinger closing in where at all possible on the 63 Lamborghini. In the background, Tristan Vautier, I thought, would be able to haul in both of them, and he hasn't as yet in that ACA ASP Mercedes.
Well, I think the reasons why we saw Rosenqvist not being able to make progress and in effect holding up some of the cars behind is probably the same reason that Vautier has not been able to make progress. There's something either with their tyre management or the car setup that they don't have the pace that they ought to have. But
place change. We have a place change. Maxime Soulet has got past Will Stevens. Will Stevens is now falling back in front of the 84 Mercedes crew. They may yet get towards the points, but they only go down to 6th place, and the 84 Mercedes is in 8th at the moment. He's got to pick off 2. Maxime Soulet, I said watch out for him, but definitely making progress. He's now trying to catch up with Lawrence Vantor, but Vantor, as you'd expect, really flying, and in fact pulling clear in the number 1 Audi.
Dominic Baumann in the 84 Mercedes might be able to latch on to the rear of Will Stevens at this now. So there is the Audi, it's just over a second ahead of the Mercedes, but that will only bring him up into 7th place. He needs to get ahead of the Bentley, which is not likely. The Bentley's clearly the quicker of these 2 cars on camera. So Dominic Baumann has got a big challenge really, because there's not an awful lot he's going to be able to do.
Well, 33, Enzo Ida, race leader, picking his way past Claudio Stanovic, the brains trust at WRT, Thierry Tassin. Lots of gesticulation, but look, rather nicely, there's a smile there that was thrown back to those involved. And we're focusing heavily at the moment on what's happening in the Sprint Cup, because, of course, if the 33 Audi goes on to win this race, it is almost as close to home as you can be, but agonisingly not quite there. We'll have to see if the number 84 Mercedes can get into the points. But if we look at the overall picture, of course, it was closing right up. The 58 McLaren crew going well for Rob Bell. He's now on board, but the drive-through penalty has put them down in 90th place, which makes the main race so difficult. So advantage in that stays, and has now gone out for the 84 Mercedes.
The penalty, the drive-through penalty, isn't really a penalty in this qualifying race. It's a penalty in the what you might call the championship race, because your grid position is going to be determined by where you finish in this race. It's not on a qualifying time, it's on your finishing position in the first of these 2 races. So he'll be starting back on the 10th row of the grid, and again the same problem for everybody who's been that far back. How do you make your way through? And it's impossible, and that's the penalty. It's not just the drive-through, it's not just the fact that you've not scored points in this race, it's your start position in the race later this afternoon.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out the points accredited to the top 10 drivers in the feature race. 25, 18, 15, 12, 10 to the top 5, then 8, 6, 4, 2, 1. In this morning's race, the qualifying race, they only go down to 6th place, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1. So at the moment, the driver who'll be not scoring points, the first one not to score points at the moment will be Will Stevens. The second one not to score points, critically, is the 84 Mercedes of Dominic Baumann. Maxi Boot started the race, couldn't make progress, and it seems to be a story that is repeating itself for the gunmetal and red liveried Mercedes. Certainly doesn't have the answer to the number 8 Bentley. Maxime Soulet, he's the last driver to score points if it stays as it is. He's running around in 6th place. He's 1.5 seconds clear of Will Stevens' Audi, but for him 2.4 seconds down on the car ahead, which is the number 1 Audi.
Yes, and Baumann, we're just seeing him again in the same kind of situation that we saw Maximilian Buch in the beginning of this race. He's in position but not able to challenge as their race leader down at turn 10. And let's hope that the gap actually has been closing between the 2nd place Lamborghini and the leading Audi. It was when they sort of rejoined after their pit stops just under 16 seconds. It's now just over 13 seconds. So there is progress, coming from the 63 Lamborghini. But there's, what, 13 minutes to go, and that's, in effect, that's probably about 7 or so laps remaining. It's very unlikely, if everything remains more or less as it is, that the Lamborghini is going to be in any position to catch or challenge the lead. I don't be very.
He'd be taking 2 seconds of that, John.
The only way that something could change, if we've had a full course yellow or a safety car intervention, that's the only hope for everybody in the field, to pull this field back together, to have a real shootout.
Okay, well, yeah, exactly so, because on that lap, yes, the gap came down, but only by 0.2 of a second. So 25 laps on the board, 13 and a bit seconds clear, 13.182 seconds clear. For Enzo Ida, running relatively untroubled at the front, but as you said, a full course yellow could change all that, could bring the Lamborghini right onto his tail. Yeah, 85, interesting, we just got that team manager to race control immediately. That was a car that had contact early in the race and was under investigation. So 85 and 86 from the HTP Motorsport camp in trouble. 84 in its own sort of trouble, because it's not getting pinged for anything, but it's not running right where they want it to be.
No, 86, that's now Ben Schneider in 12th place, so they had to take that drive-through penalty just directly behind the 23 Takaboshi.
But they did a better job of it, John, because that's 6 places ahead of Rob Bell in the 58 McLaren.
Oh, yes.
It came in from ahead, but only by about 3 seconds, 4 seconds, but it's certainly more than that ahead of him now. About 15 seconds behind. Another low shot, seeing the swooping section down through 6 and 7 from the Nissan. They go into turn 7 here, turn left, up the hill through the little kink there at turn 8, and then they get to one of the trickiest corners on the circuit, over the crest of the hill at turn 9. Doesn't look as steep there as it is. A lot of the drivers pushing wide over the curbs. 2 wheels good, as we said, John, 4 wheels bad. Most of them had 2.5 wheels over the curbing there.
You're allowed to run that corner. It's when you get 4 wheels over completely off the racetrack, then that's going to get the attention. But most people are maintaining 2 wheels off, quite acceptable. Back to the 33 car, and Weed running his own pace. There's the 2nd place Lamborghini. The gap the last time they came by, well, this time it's showing 13.3 seconds. So it's sort of
stabilised.
It's stabilised, yeah. So, but it's the battle between 2nd and 3rd and 3rd and 4th. That still is going to be potentially not going to have a bearing on what's going on in the overall championship. There's a number of those being decided here this afternoon, or this morning and this afternoon. So that's the focus there, with now the 88 Mercedes being challenged by Lawrence Van Thor, who has done a great job to bring that car all the way up. Frederick Vervies started to get the car into position up the inside of the Mercedes. So Lawrence Van Thor has put himself into position, but can he maintain it as he goes past one of the Ferraris? Now the Mercedes back. Now the undercut's going to come from Van Thor, and he may get it done this time finally, because he's got the better drive and he's got the track position. So Tristan Vautier looks again to get up the inside. He doesn't want to give it up.
Well, there was a real case of diminishing returns ahead of him, so really strong drive. This number 1 Audi started in 18th place from Frederick Vervies. Yes, there have been a few drive-through penalties, but they, not quite alone, but one of a few cars that have really showed the ability to overtake, get past. So that's now up into 4th place for Lawrence Van Thor. He'll be about 3 seconds down on Marlon Stockinger, the Filipino driver. Sorry, I called him Ty earlier, but he's more interested in his battle for 2nd place on the circuit. But a great drive from Van Thor.
But the key to Van Thor's drive is that now that he's into 4th place, it puts him in 2nd row of the grid, and that one car can then ride as a shotgun, or a defence to the number 33 car, as it makes progress once the race this afternoon gets underway. So that's the big advantage. Number 1 car is not going to challenge 33 at any point in the championship race this afternoon. It will be there just to protect.
Well, looking for changes further down the field. We wanted to see if Rob Bell could advance. He will, but that's by 1 place gain, because car 85 is getting a drive-through penalty. That's ahead of him on the circuit. Clement Schmidt at the wheel at the moment for causing a collision. But good news for car 84, under investigation for an unsafe release. That's been dismissed. So for 84, that's one concern they don't have at the moment, but their main concern with 9 and a bit minutes remaining is how to score a point in the remaining handful of laps. They have to gain 2 places to do so. They have to get ahead of the number 8 Bentley. They're too far back. They're about 3.5 seconds down on that Bentley.
This car has not shown pace all morning, and it's driven round both Maximilian Buch and Dominic Baumann they've driven wheel perfect events, but so far nothing to indicate that that car's got enough speed. So 85 getting that warning, or not warning, it's got the advice to make a drive through for causing a collision.
That was with the 26 Audi. Let's have a look. Well, they're rather tattered already, Audi. Goes to the outside.
Yeah, you have to say that was a bit of a dunk.
Yes, dunk and off, but that had already bearing the scars, we think, from its collision on the opening lap. We reckon that was the culprit of the collision that put the number 4 Audi deep into the gravel and out of the race.
So Enzoid continues on his way. The gap again hovering around the 13.3 seconds. The advantage the Lamborghini had by running a couple of seconds of that advantage. Waiting to see where Nicholas Pola in the second place car is when he comes across the line. There he is. So the gap was 13.3. It's done. Got to stay the same. Time last lap times within a 1,000th of a second of each other. So it's all situation status quo.
But importantly for Enzo, he was that 1,000th of a second faster, you see. It's psychological.
Yep.
So stretching the lead, we've got 7.5 minutes remaining. Can anyone do anything to topple the 33 Audi? Started by Robin Friens, up from third on the grid, into the lead by the opening corner. Handful of cars got it wrong at the opening corner, and 2 of the leading challengers picked up drive-through penalties. But one of the stories of the race, the 84 Mercedes really needed to score points in this qualifying race. There are 25 points up for grab in the feature race this afternoon. 25 points for victory, nothing for anyone outside the top 10. But it looks like the gap between them and the car that's leading the race will be 25 points after the flag falls in under 10 minutes this morning. So for Enzo Ida, that puts him just so on the cusp of winning the Sprint Cup. But for the 84 crew, as we see Alvaro Parent looking frustrated in the garage after that drive-through penalty. This race could have been so good for them. They were running fourth, but the drive-through penalties put them down. Well, they're in 18th place.
You know, that's always the danger here in Turn 1 in Barcelona. There is that space on the inside of Turn 2, which people do use to avoid a collision. But it would appear that there was a little bit more room available that would have allowed those 2 cars to stay on track. But those are the decisions that you have to make. So you've got split second to make that decision, and you chose to go left and go inside the corner. If you gained a position, the first thing you should have done was backed out of it and given it back up again. But by maintaining it, then you're always going to be under threat of having a drive-through for track limits.
Yeah, and I think as much as Alvaro Parent tried to get back on the circuit as they went between turns 1 and 2, he couldn't, simply because the 85 Mercedes was the 86 Mercedes was driving across the bit of track that stopped him from rejoining. No such problems though for Robin Friens when he took the lead into turn 1 on the opening lap. He then stretched it clear, was 6.5-7 seconds clear, came in for the pit stop at the latest possible time, and then the team just did such an amazing job putting Enzo Ida in the car and turning it around. He gained about another 7 or 8 seconds in that pit stop, so he came out with a 15 and a bit second lead over the 63 Lamborghini, and with the clock counting down to just over 5 minutes, it's 13 seconds clear. He's doing all he needs to do to take the full haul of points this morning. 8 points for the 33 Audi crew. So into the closing 5 minutes we go. It seems that Marlon Stockinger has no answers, but in fact he's now looking in his mirrors. He'd been looking at the green Lamborghini, but he's got to look in his mirrors because he could lose third place, because the driver who's really been making progress, Lawrence Van Tor, how many times have we said that across recent years in the Blancpain GT series? There he is in the number 1 Audi, going around the top part of the circuit, closing in on the 74 Audi. Running down, just want to pick out a few prize performances. In 5th place, going leading runner in the Silver Cup, is Nikolai Moller-Madsen, the Danish racer, took over from Alessio Picardiello, who'd been so strong, in fact, had set the fastest lap we'd seen all weekend in the first practice session, and it was never better. The track got worse over the weekend rather than better. 5 places further back in 14th overall, we have Michele Beretta also chasing down the Silver Cup glory, and 2 places further back, Stuart Leonard, likewise in the Silver Cup for younger drivers, back in 16th place in the number 2 Audi. Enzo Ida not having to take risks, The gap came down by half a second last time around, but he's still 12.6 second clears. And now look how close it is. Second, third and fourth covered by 1.5 seconds. The meat in the sandwich there is Marlon Stockinger in the 74 Audi. 63 Polar Lamborghini not being troubled at the moment because Stockinger is having to look in his mirrors because the number 1 Audi is coming. And Laurens Vanthoor, you can just see how much more handling he's getting out of the car as he goes through the big sweep at turn 3. Round long turn 4 they go, then they'll drop down the hill. One of the HCP Mercedes is just rumbling through. That is the 85 car serving its drive-through penalty for causing a collision. And the 74 Audi has just gone out of third place. Marlon Stockinger. Oh, he obviously reacted to the pressure from behind from the number 1 Audi. And that's got it wrong at turn 5, deep in the gravel. So everyone move up a position. That's it's great for the Audi number 1, but it's also great for Dominic Baumann. The 84 Mercedes is now up to 7th place, needs to get up to 6th, needs one more instant to help him get in the points. So let's take a look at the replay. Coming out of turn 4, did Laurens Vanthoor dive up the inside? There is the answer to your question, dived up the inside. Can we see any marks on the side of the car? You cannot do that, but anyhow. So long faces and expressions of surprise in the pit lane. No such problems at all, though, for the team WRT. Number 33 going on to its 32nd lap. Enzo Ida driving supremely well at the front of the race, and his gap is normally around 12.5 seconds. So he's actually picked up the pace last time around. 12.2 seconds. No, it's actually slightly come down, but that's a plenty big enough gap, leaving the chasing pack behind. Now with Laurens Vanthoor up into 3rd, Tristan Vautier in the 88 Mercedes up into 4th, Maxime Soulet in the number 8 Bentley up to 5th, Will Stevens, 28 Audi up to 6th, Dominic Baumann 1 place outside the points in the 84 Mercedes in the 7th place, but less than a second down on Will Stevens, and Will has been picked off by a group of cars coming through. Now we're going to have another look at the replay. I queried, there was no mark on the side of the 74 Audi. Right now we can see a late dive from Laurens Vanthoor up the inside. No contact as yet. Can't see the car jerking around. Now, did Stockinger lose it without contact? Let's look on the side of the car. Can we see contact? He could have hit against the tyre, but it looked as though there is a question mark. But anyhow, there are many question marks for this race. We already had the team managers for cars 19, 87 and 59 to the stewards after the race. So they'll be wearing out the carpet on the steps up to race control to speak to the stewards. No such problems for the 33 crew. Just to give you those numbers again, 19, that's the Michele Beretta Luca Stoltz Silver Cup challenging a Lamborghini that's running in 13th place. 59, that is the sister McLaren. That's not the Rob Bell Alvaro Parent, it's Martin Plowman and Andrew Watson. And 87, that is one of the ACA ASP Mercedes, Jean-Luc Bobelic and Morgan Moulin-Trafort. But into the final minute of the race we go, all going supremely well for Enzo Ida. He can't have dreamt that he'd have come away with a 25-point lead. 25 points up for grabs in the feature race this afternoon, but he could stretch it. It could come down to 24 and make it just that bit more exciting into the final race. But here we are, under half a minute on the clock. This is the final lap of the race, and in terms of the Sprint Cup, that's what Enzo Ida is focusing on. There is his mother. She's starting to believe. Keep those fingernails. Great lumps of rubber. Do you need to overtake Enzo? Well, it's sometimes better to do so. Go past the back marker, keep your focus, keep your concentration. Up to turn 4 for the final time. The long right-hander, slightly uphill on the exit. Gone past that ACA ASP Mercedes. Down the hill, big understeer moment there, so keep the concentration, Enzo. That's just where his sister car, the number 1 Audi, got so close to 74 Audi just a few moments ago, fighting for 3rd place. But Enzo, he's got half the lap to go. It's so frustrating for him. If he ends up, he cannot wrap up the Sprint Cup until this afternoon in the main race. And as we've seen, plenty can happen. But now look, what is trying to happen on the circuit is the number 1 Audi fancies taking 2nd place on this, the final lap. Can Nicolas Pola in the green Lamborghini hold on? He ran a little bit wide, but just did enough to slot into position ahead and hold down 2nd place over the top part of the circuit. Through turn 9 they go. Now there could be a possible overtaking maneuver down the inside, and here it comes down into turn 10. Trademark place to do it, and got the move done, trying to cut back underneath goes Nicholas Pola. Of course, the number 1 Audi was later on the brakes. Place has been regained, and the Lamborghini's got far enough across to block off the inside, or has he? And up goes, but the Place must go back the other way, and Vanthoor wheels on the dirt. Pola does not want to give him any circuit. Now he's got no choice. Down the inside, but through the final corner to take the checkered flag comes Enzo Ida. Robin Fried started the race, did a wonderful job, but all eyes on what's happening further back down the lap. Out of the final corner we go, and it's a WRT 1-2 because Laurens Vanthoor has fought from 18th place with teammate Frederik Vervisch up to take second from the flag. And Thierry Tassin, Vincent Vos, and the Ida family, well, congratulations to them. They are almost there for the Sprint Cup, but far more excitingly, we've got to wait until this afternoon. And did Dominic Baumann get into the points? No, he didn't. Number 84 came home agonisingly for him. 1 position out of the points, but it's still not there for the Ida family. 25 points clear, 25 points up for grabs in the Sprint Cup, but if they end equal on points, there are more and it'll take a victory from the 84 Mercedes crew, then they will get it on the number of wins. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. A great race there from Robin Fried on the right-hand side of the picture, and Enzo Ida, door open. He'll be very emotional when he comes into Parc Fermé, but enjoying the moment for now. That was a textbook race for the number 33 Audi crew. Robin Fried's earning the accolades. His job was done by the time he gained 2 places into the first corner, not downplaying it at all. He then built up a very, very sizable lead, and that certainly set it up. But the WRT crew deserve a huge applause for doubling that advantage in the pit stop. The driver change over from Robin Fried to Enzo Ida. Okay, I'm just receiving news. There's always a twist in the tale. 30-second penalty. Dramatic pause for car number 1 for causing an accident. That was the collision with the 74 Audi. So instead of finishing second on the circuit, that has dropped it to 13th. And that process means the 84 Mercedes has gained a point, has moved up to 6th place overall. So Nicholas Pola, yes, he went from 3rd back to 2nd, but it means, Enzo, I've got to break the news to you. My friend, as you drive in, your lead is 24 points, not 25. It's still a huge lead going into the race this afternoon, but a twist in the tail, that very positive drive from Laurens Vanthoor, judged to have had contact. We couldn't tell from the angle as he went past the 74 Audi, but what we can tell you is Enzo Ida and Robin Fried's victory in the qualifying race. So it's 33 first, ahead of the 63 Lamborghini. Nicholas Pola taking over from Mirko Bortolotti. Tristan Vautier is thus promoted up to 8th place. And there it is, drive-through penalty for car number 1 has been converted into a 30-second penalty for a collision. Obviously, the penalty was served too late in the race for a drive-through to be served. So they've taken the time penalty. Robin Fried, though, bamboozled. He was looking quite miffed when he got out of the car. That was quite strange, because what a strong opening stint, but it's all smiles for the 33 Audi crew. And Maxime Soulet's number 8 Bentley goes up to 4th place. Will Stevens pushed back up to 5th in the 28 Audi, and Dominic Baumann and, critically, Maxi Buch, the two of them have got the point for 6th place. But for Robin Fried, he did the job early on. Enzo Ida, well, he might have received a message saying you're not 25 points clear, you're 24 points clear, but what he cares, he just wanted this morning to score more points than the 84 Mercedes crew, and he has done precisely that. Not only that, they've taken victory in the qualifying race, and I'm sure he will be immensely proud. Just pulling into Parc Fermé, already there is Nicholas Pola's 2nd place 63 Lamborghini. And we'll wait for the red ACA ASP Mercedes, just coming into Parc Fermé now to park beneath the podium. You'll see it in the background, but Robin Fried leans in to chat to his teammate Enzo Ida. Of course, all season it's been in the Sprint Cup, it's been Enzo Ida and Christopher Mies. Christopher racing elsewhere this weekend, and what a replacement driver to have. Already knows the team clearly from racing for them in the Endurance Cup, but Robin Fried has stepped in, joined Enzo Ida. And you can just see the respect and the appreciation from Enzo, the Belgian racer, to his Dutch colleague. That was a textbook performance for them and for the team. I happy place to be when all things go right, but certainly for the 84 Mercedes crew, they've been given a minor reprieve at the end of the race. That number 1 Audi crew being pushed, given that 30-second time penalty, and pushes them up into the points, and number 1 out of the points. But for Enzo Ida, pop his cap on, his specs back on. That was a great job on a Sunday morning at the Circuit de Catalunya. So, let's find out what our winners think. John Watson has gone down to join them. John Watson with the winners.
Robin Friends, you made it look rather easy.
Yeah, it's never easy. The start was very important as I had new tires on. So yeah, I found the gap, and the team said don't take any big risks, which I didn't from my side. I saw a clean gap, and if I see a gap, I go for it.
I mean, having the new tyres, what in real terms per lap, how much advantage is that, particularly in clear air?
I don't know. I was pulling away quite easily at the beginning. After a couple of laps, I had a gap from 6 seconds, and I was keep on pushing for if something happens, like full goes yellow or whatever. When I came in, just before I came in, I had a gap from 8.5 or so, and yeah, Enzo was free and he took it easy.
Well done. Enzo, you looked a bit nervous before you got into the car, but a great turnaround by the WRT team got you out comfortably in the lead.
Yeah, it's true. Great teamwork. This guy, unbelievable. So for me, I had the most easiest stint of the season, so I had no pressure, just kept a good pace and everything went fine, no mistakes. So for the 4th time in P1 now in this season.
So you say no pressure. What about the pressure to start this afternoon then?
Yeah, that will be a little bit more pressure, but
turn 1's always messy.
I know it's messy, but we managed all the season, so I think if everybody uses his brain a little bit, it should be okay.
Well, I don't want to rain your parade, but the pair of you are almost there.
I know.
Well done.
Good interview there from John Watson with Enzo Ida and Robin Friends, and you can just see Enzo is within touching distance, but he can't let himself believe. But the fact is, he started this morning with 17 seconds. Let's find out from the 2nd place crew. That's Nicolas Pola and Mirko Bortolotti. John Watson's moved over to talk to the Lamborghini crew. Let's find out what they have to say.
Mirko, when the lights went out, we thought you were going to be first in, first out of turn 1, but what went on down there?
Yeah, me too. I actually had a really good start as you know, I dreamed, and managed to have a good run, but obviously the way to the first corner is so long, so the guys that start in the 2nd row have an advantage, perhaps. So Robin had I think a good tow from Frank Pereira, and he managed to pass us both into the first corner. I stayed on the outside, managed to pass Frank, so I was 2nd, and then 2 or 3 cars just cut the chicane and didn't get the position back. Quite unfortunate, because I think that I had the pace to stay with Robin. So I lost a lot of time behind the Mercedes, because I had to save my tires as well, so I couldn't stay too close. At the end of the day, doesn't matter, really happy with the podium, 2nd place for us. I want to say thanks to the team, to Lamborghini, to Nicolas. I think we did the maximum today.
You did a good job. Nicolas, you took over from Mirko. You managed to take a couple of 3 seconds out of the lead of Enzo Ida, but reality was the gap was too big.
Yeah, I didn't look at the start of the race anything. I was in the truck, so I didn't watch anything. And then I looked and I saw the huge gap. And I think it was just to finish 2nd. And then I saw in the last lap the number 1 car overtook me, and I was really gutted. So
well, you got a front row grid start position for the race this afternoon. I mean, you can, if you get the lead, could be a different story.
Maybe, yeah. Let's see.
Okay, well done.
So very happy Lamborghini crew. Certainly plenty happened. They got demoted on that final lap by the number 1 Audi, but that got given the 30-second penalty, which dropped it to an eventual 13th finishing position. So the biggest smiles from Enzo Ida there, congratulating Felix Rosenqvist, who finished 3rd along with Tristan Vautier. Now the chance for the crews to focus, but they can relax for a little bit now, but of course they've got to focus on the main race. And let's find out from that ACA ASP Mercedes crew, Tristan Vautier and Felix Rosenqvist.
Felix, we thought 88 was going to make more progress, but it looks like either you just didn't have the pace, or what was the problem?
Well, I mean, actually we did progress. We start 5th and finish 3rd. I think this time was quite lucky. We had some degradation already in the first lap, and then it just got worse and worse. So we tried actually to look more in the mirror than looking forward this race. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those races you did the right. I mean, we maximized everything, and we had a really good pit stop. So yeah, I mean, that was enough today to finish on the podium. So overall, quite happy. But we have to work a bit on the car for the next race.
Tristan, Felix says you're going to have to work on the car. He's not meaning you, but what can the team do to give the car better performance?
We had a lot of oversteer, to be honest. It was one of these races where after the second or third lap in the stint, you know it's going to be long. And just try to, you know, not make it horrible, preserve the tires and drive clean. In the end, our execution was perfect in the pits, on the track, no mistakes. We didn't have great pace, but we scored an okay result. But for sure, we have to work on our pace for the main race because that's not enough.
Second row of the grid sounds good to me. Up on the podium, you two.
Thank you very much for John Watson, right in the heart of the action as the top three drivers go up to the podium. There is the finishing order. 33, taking 33 laps. Victory for Enzo Ida and Robin Friens. Nicolas Pola and Mirko Bortolotti second in their Lamborghini. Tristan Vautier and Felix Rosenqvist third in the 88 Mercedes. And a car that made progress all race, Maxime Soulet and Andy Soucek on his home ground in the number 8 Bentley. And what you don't see on that screen is the McLaren crew, because McLaren 58 from Garage 59 down in 16th place at the end. And for Rob Bell, who was challenging for the overall title, that's been a bit of a setback. But luckily for him, the crew he's chasing down, Baumann and Buch, picked up just the 1 point. So their advantage has gone out to 6 points in the overall championship. Few drivers with slightly red faces after contact in that race, but we still had 30 of the 33 starters running at the finish. Nobody, however, could hold a candle to Robin Friens and Enzo Ida, who won the qualifying race, the last qualifying race of the year, here in round 10 of the Blancpain GT series, the 10th and final round. One race to go, the qualifying race this afternoon, starting with a rolling start at 2:10. Enzo Ida in the Sprint Cup, ahead of Christopher Mies, his teammate. Christopher not here. 87 points against, fittingly, the 63 points to Maxi Buch and Dominic Baumann. There are 25 points still to play for. He's 24 points clear. The Belgian so close, but the title not yet his. Jules Simkowiak and Bernd Schneider, they had slight problems in the race running, and they had the drive-through penalty, and that dropped them down to gain no points at all. They are 4th in the Sprint Cup Championship. And of course, this afternoon, all eyes will turn to the overall season championship, the combination of the Sprint Cups and the Endurance Cups run across all 10 rounds, and we'll see who comes out on the very top at that. Now here is Maxi Buch in the overall combined points, 130 points, along with his teammate Dominic Baumann. Rob Bell, no points this morning for him either. He goes on, starts the race this afternoon way down the grid on row 8. He is 6 points behind, but our first podium visitors, you can see Felix Rosenqvist and Christophe Vautier and Felix Rosenqvist coming out. Sorry, I got a bit ahead of myself. There we are. Going over to third place, second place now. We're waiting for, of course, the Lamborghini crew. Mirko Bortolotti and Nicolas Pola. And the driver, undoubtedly with the largest smile on his face, coming out onto the podium, will be the driver who... There's Will Stevens coming out. Not Will Stevens coming out, beg your pardon. We're waiting for our race winners to come out. Here we go, the driver with the biggest smile on his face. Robin Friens on the left, but look for the smile from Enzo Ida. Coming out second, it's Friens. That's the order in which they started the race. First and then second. Friens and then Enzo Ida in touching distance of the Sprint Cup trophy. Handshakes all round, great gentlemanly performance. So Enzo Ida on the right, very much appreciated the role that Robin Friens, super sub, came in, gave him the lead. The team did a fantastic job at the pit stops. Out come the trophies. Of course, all drivers still thinking about the race this afternoon, but that was a hugely, hugely important run for Ida this morning in his quest to land the Sprint Cup trophy. The Silver Cup trophy being presented first. Third place trophy to Felix Rosenqvist first, and alongside Tristan Vautier as well. So the big trophies coming out shortly. Second place trophies to Mirko Bortolotti on the left and Nicolas Pola on the right. Applause from Robin Frientz, waiting of course for the biggest trophies of all for the qualifying race. Most importantly for Frientz and particularly for Enzo Ida, it's the 8 points that go with victory. So Enzo, handshake, he'll take the trophy. And looks very, very pleased indeed with his morning's performance along with Robin Frientz. So there are the winners of the qualifying race. It was Audi, Lamborghini and Mercedes, showing the great diversity in the Blancpain GT series. But for all the crews, they know they've got the main race this afternoon, another hour of action. If it's got as much drama as the qualifying race, then it's going to be absolutely electric. And it's time for a bit of fizz here on Sunday morning at the Circuit de Catalunya. For the victors, the spoils. And new suits all round for this afternoon. Never nice getting back in a suit that's been sprayed with champagne. But you know what? Enzo Ida simply doesn't care right now. Blinded by the champagne in his eyes, but I think a gentleman who is very, very pleased with the morning's enterprise, and the WRT Audi crew deserve a pat on the back as well, because not only did Robin Frientz come in with a handy lead, as he pointed out, of about 8 seconds, but they almost doubled that during the changeover to Enzo Ida. And Ida did the rest, brought it home to a clear victory by a dozen seconds, and posing for the first of many photos one feels here at Barcelona. And hands up too for Felix Rosenqvist. Drove from, as he's pointed out, gained quite a few places to go up to third for Mercedes. Let's take a look at the highlights. It was so tight down to the first corner. It looks like Mirko Bortolotti had got to the front in the green Lamborghini, but then up the inside, having got a tow, we reckon, from Franck Pereira, goes the number 33 Audi into the lead of the race, off at the first corner, rejoining with a few places gained, and that would cost a penalty for the 58 McLaren crew, and that would lead them eventually with no points. They weren't alone. The 86 Mercedes picked up a penalty as well. Super close. Wonderful low-down shots from very close-ups from the Nissan. Was the contact with the back? Oh yes, there was, with the 26 Audi up ahead. That wasn't the end of the contact for them. 75 Audi being given a clip by the 8 Bentley, and there was, I think, a further clip just there. Little body parts coming off. It seems to be coming off the Audi, not the Bentley. So close around the circuit. Not close if your name was Robin Frientz, because he started pulling clear. And Pierre Dieudonné and the other crew down in the WRT crew. It was fingers crossed. The 26 Audi pitched off the circuit by the 85 Mercedes. Then came pit stops, but also drive-throughs. Not at all for Enzo Ida, though. He had to wait almost the longest. The pit stop window was nearly closed. Now, was this an unsafe release by the 84 Mercedes? It was proved not to be so, but with the drive-through penalties, quite a few of the runners went back down the field, including the 58 McLaren crew, so no wonder Alvaro Parent looked so frustrated out on the circuit. Super, super close, but the drivers making the move tended to be in the Audis. Number 2 Audi was trying to gain positions. A bit of a clash here. That was the number 1, and they would pick up a 30-second penalty. They got up into second place on the final lap, but a 30-second penalty dropped them out. But it was all about the 33 WRT Audi, started by Frientz, finished by Enzo Ida. It puts them within 1 point of taking the Sprint Cup honours, so job well done. Look at the joy down in the WRT Audi crew. That's the qualifying race done. Looking forward big time to the feature.